How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Fumble Live. We are breaking down the latest sports news for you, including some tweets from OBJ and somebody who clapped back at him, as well as a potential playoff format. But before we get into all the news, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Wait, did someone say something? I think someone said something in the background, but maybe not. Subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, you guys, leave a comment below. And now I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. So sorry for that, you guys. I thought I heard our technical director talking to me from off camera, but it wasn't. Now let's move on. Forget that happened. Chris.
It's your boy Fuzzy Chris in the building. Follow me everywhere at CK2K. I don't know what's going on.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Right. But now you can move your mouth and we won't know if it's the fuzz. You could just totally play on this if you want to. There you go. Right. I'm Jackie Ray. You can follow me on all things social media at JRay the Fanatic.
Hey guys, it's your girl Britt. I'm a little more clear today because Chris decided to take my fuzz. Appreciate it. Taking one for the team. But you can follow me on all social media at I am Britt Johnson.
I want to point out that this quarantine has brought out several different sides of Chris. We've seen soft Chris. Now we've got fuzzy Chris.
Man,
we're just seeing all Chris's.
I don't know what's happening right now.
I like this one on you, Chris. This is my favorite one.
Good. I'm glad.
You have a great face for radio. Let me tell you that.
Guys, a quick little summary of what we're going to be getting into today. Like I mentioned, we're talking about some tweets again that Odell posted. We're going to get into Dame Lillard and how Steph Curry agrees with something that he said recently. We've talked about it on our show. We're also talking about Zion Williamson and the latest updates with his legal battle. What's coming up for Post Up, Chris?
Well, we have a lot of things we're going to be talking about. We're talking about a video that I'm sure everybody has seen where a lady is doing things that, to be honest, I was expecting to see a lot more of with these protests. We'll talk about that in a bit later. Alex Caruso out here in these streets with one of the best comebacks in post-up history, in my opinion. We got some questionable old tweets from Patrick Mahomes that we're going to talk about. And Nick Wright finally says something right. We're going to talk about that.
I also would like to mention, you guys, that it is Blackout Tuesday today. So Britt had the idea that we would all wear black to show our support. If you are going to post on Instagram, make sure you do not include that Black Lives Matter hashtag because it's clogging up the informational posts that are on there. So I just wanted to throw that out there really quickly before we move on. Jackie, what's coming up for WTF?
I think today we got to change the WTF title to, yeah, that sounds right, because we're talking to Gregg Popovich, who he always sounds right, and then a possible re-up for the XFL. So, yeah, that sounds right. That's what we're calling it today.
Love it. And then, Britt, anything that you would like to mention for Britt's takes before we jump in?
I mean, this is going to be like a mini version of the post up. I have some tweets that were said and some responses by some NBA players or former NBA players. So it should be a good one because I'll add my take on top of what these athletes had to say about a specific tweet that was posted this week.
All right, you guys.
Tweets, I take the fuzz. Look at all this crossover going on right now.
No, we're
Chris, this would have been a perfect time. This would have been a perfect day for you to do the open mic challenge. We wouldn't even have been able to see
you would have
in full clarity.
Right.
And you just missed this opportunity.
I didn't expect that.
Let's do a quick intermission so Chris can get ready. He can go prepare himself.
There we go.
You won't even see it. You won't even see it. Yes.
All right, you guys, let's continue on with this the Fumble Squad live remix, because that's what it feels like today. So let's get to Odell Beckham.
Uh-oh.
And again yesterday when he tweeted out against the people who were getting violent at the protests. He posted this tweet that says, "Violence is not the answer. Cops killing us is not the answer. Us killing cops is not the answer. Violence will only bring more violence." And then he doubled down on his thoughts again and tweeted, "We're trying to unify an entire nation, which we are far, far from, but that's the only thing that bothers me. If you don't speak up or you're silent, you're against us, etc. For me, it's a tough position. It's actually a lose-lose." So OBJ feels that no matter which way you slice it, if you're loud and vocal or if you're quiet, there's no winning. At least that's what I interpret, how I interpreted what he said. Now, Tobias Harris decided to call out OBJ on his tweets because he, like a lot of the people on Twitter, really didn't agree with his perspective. So he wrote, quote, "Respectfully, family, if you're silent, we don't know what side you're on. And if we don't know what side you're on, it is safe to assume you're on the other side." Now, this is a fair assumption. There's that quote going around that says, if you're neutral in times of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. And that's what Tobias is saying. Odell responded back saying, quote, "Respectfully, and again, haven't been silent and won't be silent going forward. Quiet. I gather information, I process what to do with that, and I go from there. Lastly, just to repeat myself, I'm on the side for change and solution. The right side, brother. The only side." Now, I looked at some of the responses that Odell got to that tweet, and there were quite a few that said things like, "You've been black your whole life. What information do you need to gather? What more do you need to know?" So I'm curious to hear from you guys. And Britt, I want to start off with you because yesterday I know you thought that Odell's tweets were pretty dumb. So how do you feel about these latest updates coming from him?
I mean, even more dumb. Like, and it's not even you're not ignorant because you don't lack knowledge or understanding. I don't understand the information you're gathering because, like Jackie said yesterday, this is, I don't remember the exact number, but since 2016, it was 200 and how many people, Jackie?
62.
That have been killed by police.
262.
Yes, 262 have been killed since 2016 alone, which is roughly around the time you got into the league. So for you to pretend like, oh, maybe I was too young during that. No, you've been a grown man time now. So at least since 2016, you can say you've heard of a lot of these names and you've been around enough to say something. So I don't understand what information you're still gathering. I don't understand if you're one of those people that says, well, I don't know, I have to look in, the video doesn't really describe if this was an actual murder. Like, we all saw everything. I just don't understand what you're looking for, what you're still trying to gather. Like, I think you mentioned this part and now you're trying to just backtrack and say, well, I was gathering information and I was, no. Tobias hit everything on the head and he has been very vocal this whole time. I follow him on social media because obviously he used to play for my Clippers and I miss him sometimes, but I still follow him on social media and he's been pretty vocal the whole time. So I'm glad that he, stood up and said something to Odell because obviously there's a bunch of us regular people that say stuff and it goes kind of like Odell's probably not listening, but to have another person that has a platform like Odell has to come out and say something, I think was important because Odell's going to respond back to that like we just saw yesterday yesterday when the tweets were posted. So I'm just, and I can't say less, Odell, because you were saying less and that was the problem.
Right. Yeah.
But you said the wrong thing. I don't know. Like, it's weird.
I think it's disappointing to see somebody with a platform, like a black athlete with a platform like his, being kind of
like from the South on top of everything.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a comment in the chat that I just want to touch on real quick. It's from James Jr. He says, "Oh my God, I think Odell is fully right. Like, how can you force someone to support something? Honestly, if someone is silent, they are scared. For someone to hate on someone for not picking a side," shaking my head. With all due respect, this is the type of thinking that infuriates me because I don't really care about your little fear, because when I can't even drive down the street and see a cop pull behind me without my whole life flashing before my eyes, I give a damn about your little fear about saying something. We are in a time right now where we are imploding because we have continued to do nothing. So I don't care about your fear. If you need to speak up, and you need to speak up on the right side, period. That's it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel the same way, judging by the responses that Odell was getting. He's in a great position right now to create change, to educate people, to inspire people, and he's choosing to not take it, which is pretty disheartening. Chris, what are your thoughts on the whole situation, and in particular, what do you think about Tobias calling him out?
Yeah, to have a lot of us say what we had to say, we said our opinions on it yesterday when I put it in post up. Yeah, I felt like it was really a cop out to try and have that kind of response the way he had it. And of course, a lot of us had our opinions on it. A lot of us weren't fans of it. I was not a fan of it. But like Britt said, he's not going to see those because, you know, he's going to get so many of them to the point where he's just going to ignore them. But to have somebody like Tobias Harris, who is also what has like a similar platform in the NBA, an athlete that, you know, has that check mark, I'm glad that somebody said something because it needed to be said. That's why I wasn't even a fan of the response more so than the original tweet, because the response to me was way more of a step back, and it came off. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the response even more than the original tweet. So yeah, I'm glad that Tobias Harris said something. I'm glad that, you know, because that's somebody who he's going to hear, obviously, because he responded to it. Response was weak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
Do
with
you think, can I ask you, I want to ask Britt and Chris another question. The whole thing with him having the incident with the little kicker's net thing on the sideline that we all kind of laughed at, but they still bring up, even though now he's in Cleveland. Do you think that if he was, say, like Gronkowski, that we would have just laughed that off and moved on? Or do you think it's specifically because he's Odell? And do you think it's because he's black? Or do you think he's just because he's one of the dopest wide receivers in the league? Which one is it? I'm just asking.
The second one, on top of the fact that he was in New York, because, you know, New York likes to, I mean, and understandably they will embellish those kind of things, but 100% I feel like it definitely has to do with the what you said at the end, you know, him being African American, black athlete in the NFL. And like you said, there was situations where we had way more of an outrage with, way more of a stance by other players when we just, like, you know, shook it off, like you said, like Gronkowski, where it's just like, oh, that's just Gronk. And yeah, I don't feel like that's right, and I've never felt that was right. I just feel like on top of, you know, him being black in the NFL, he was also in New York, so it's one of those things that just can get blown up. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So how does he go through that?
Well, to that point, it's like Odell was very vocal on all of that kind of stuff when he spoke out even in the draft, like, oh,
yes,
why are you guys coming at this and doing old stuff? Like, this is a player who is a very vocal player and is always coming out and doing social media stuff, whether it's a little, like, whatever. You can dance all day, Odell, and be vocal about other stuff, but when you're silent about this thing, that's the problem. Exactly. I've said this several times about people. Like, there's some people that don't say anything ever, you know, they're not really posting on social media, period. So I don't necessarily, even though you should, I don't expect you to be posting stuff if you don't post on social media, you know, like that's not your framework of, or what you do. But he's constantly posting on social media and he's constantly arguing with somebody about something, and to come in this moment and not say anything, or to say something that is so, like, for better lack of a word, that like the Nick Saban comment I did yesterday, where it's just, okay, we're not going to actually mention brutality. We're not actually going to mention people's names. We're just going to say, oh, let's all have kumbaya and Martin Luther King this, and, you know, Malcolm X that, and just say like a little quote, but not really like go dive into the situation. You dive into a lot of situations, Odell. So this is one where you should have dived in. I don't understand the problem here. Like, if you were a guy that was more quiet, maybe we wouldn't have as big of an issue as we do right now with what you said.
It is pretty out of character for him to suddenly decide that he doesn't want to speak about it. So maybe he'll change his mind. Hopefully he changes his mind. I think that would be beneficial for the movement and for, you know, the people following him. They'd probably learn a lot. Let's get into the second story. This one is about Dame and Steph Curry. So last week we talked about how Dame does not plan on suiting up for pointless games if there's no chance for the Trailblazers to get into the Western Conference playoffs. He'd be exposing himself to unnecessary injury and exhaustion when he and his teammates wouldn't stand a chance. So Steph Curry actually spoke about Dame's statements and actually agreed with him. He said, quote, "I feel what he's saying because it's hard mentally to go with this long gap and then prepare for games you know don't matter. I get it. It's a hard thing to put your mind in that space. I'm going to go out here and compete and bust my ass and know in 5 games we're just going to be back in the offseason again." The good thing for Dame is that the league seems to have heard his concerns. The most recent report reveals that a 22-team playoff format is one of the options that the league is looking at. This means that the 22 best teams, regardless of conference, have a chance to lock in a playoff spot. Jackie, are you surprised that Steph is able to see where Dame is coming from? He's always that golden boy. So do you think that he'd be sitting there thinking you should suit up no matter what?
No, I mean, I would be surprised if anyone who plays in the NBA didn't see what Dame was saying. You know what I mean? Because it takes a lot of physical and mental endurance to get out there and play at your best, and then to go out there and play at your best and know that I'm just going to do this for a couple games and then I'm going to go right back to my couch. I would be surprised if anyone in the NBA was like, "No, he's completely wrong." They might say, "Hey, I don't think it's right, but if my team suits up, I suit up." I could see a lot of people saying that because, we're a team, we're going to ride together. But I would be shocked if anyone said he's completely wrong, because he has very valid points.
Mm-hmm. Britt, do you have any predictions as to how this playoff format will go? How do you think it's going to work out?
No. I'm sick of talking about what could possibly happen. What's it going to be, NBA? NBA has almost gotten to the point now where they're too overly cautious about stuff that nothing's happening.
Right.
Everything they've exhausted I'm surprised we haven't heard something like, "Oh, we're about to go play on Venus or Mercury or something." We've heard everything from the NBA, yet we still have no what's happening. We have no actual thing. So this is where I can say, NBA, say less. We don't care right now.
Right.
So we actually just wait. Do you have your game plan? We got other shit to talk about right now that are more important. So sorry, NBA, I don't really care.
Yeah.
We've been dragged all over the place, dragged from one end to the other with these different options and potential plans. So we just need something real. Okay, let's get into this update about Zion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's get into this update about Zion's legal battle with his former sports agent. So he actually will be required to answer questions about whether he or his family accepted improper benefits during his 1 year of college at Duke after the Florida court denied his motion to stay the discovery process. So we've discussed this on our live shows recently. Prime Sports agent Gina Ford filed court documents alleging that Zion and his parents received gifts, money, and other benefits from people on behalf of Duke University to influence his college selection of the Blue Devils. Zion's lawyers tried to say that the efforts to secure the discovery process were invasive and burdensome and legally irrelevant. So, Jackie, I'm going to start with you. What do you think this all means for Zion?
I told y'all what I think this means. And when we first heard that she was possibly doing this, I said I would call her and be like, "Can we go to dinner? Let's sit down. Let's talk about this." Because the second you try to stop discovery means there's something to discover. And if you don't want that discovered, that is the time to settle. And he didn't do it. He didn't watch the fumble. He didn't listen. And now all this is about to come out, and we about to find out that his whole family got a house from Duke or something like that. It's ridiculous. He should have just settled. He should have just settled.
Well, so that was going to be my next question, and Britt, I want to ask it to you. Do you think that I admit I don't know that much about how legal cases work out, but do you think that he might settle now, if that's even a possibility?
Before he takes the stand, yeah, he should. I mean, he still has time to, instead of going on stand, decide to settle. Because really what this did was the judge just said, "We're basically subpoenaing you. You have to testify under oath." And I know he's not going to want to get to that point, because not only does it affect him, but like I said before, it's going to affect the future of Duke, which I personally don't care. I'm a UNC fan, but they're going to have future. Their players aren't going to be able to participate in March Madness. They're going to have issues with their recruiting, where they're going to have to they're not going to be able to do stuff with recruits and have the recruiting guys go out anymore for a couple of years, just like what happened with USC. And not only is he going to receive pressure from obviously his people to not do this? But obviously now Duke and the NCAA are going to come and pressure Zion to make sure he settles before this actually goes to court. So I don't think we end up seeing him testify in this situation unless he's a damn fool. And I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think he is either. Also, yeah, we need a lot of these athletes to watch our show because we're giving out advice here for free, left and right.
Right.
I was a pre-law major in college. Come on, didn't finish.
Right.
Okay, Chris, but really quickly, before I get into just one final thing that I want to mention, I want to hear from you on this. Where do you stand on Zion's legal battle and the fact that he will have to answer those questions now?
Oh, it's his fault. He's putting himself in this situation. I'm with what Jackie and Britt said. This man should have called up like, hey, whoa, hey, no, wait, hey, can we talk about this for a second before we take it to where we're gonna take it? Like, yeah, no, I 100% now. And I Britt's right. He can still say something, but I feel like if we've gone this far, I think he's gonna try to go the legal route, and I just don't think it's gonna work out for him. It's gonna a lot more harm might come out of this than Zion expects. So we'll see what he decides to do, but I feel like if he's gone this far, I don't think he's gonna say something, or I don't think he's gonna try to work something out.
We'll see what happens. All right, you guys. Well, just to round out and finish up need to know news, I want to mention that the world, and particularly the sports world, was shocked after former Indiana University football player Chris Beebe was shot and killed in Indianapolis as violence, erupted across the country, but also right there in response to the death of George Floyd. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds on Saturday night, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. It's really, really quite heartbreaking and sad. He was a lineman at Indiana from 2000 to 2004. He was still involved with the football program over there. He was a very beloved member of the organization, and the sports world mourns his loss. Our hearts go out to his friends and to his family. It's a tragedy, and it didn't feel right not to mention that in our show today. So make sure you send your love to his family in the chat down there, in the comments. We're thinking about him. So on that note, Chris, I'm sorry that it had to be kind of a tragic note to finish this up. I want to hand it to you for the post up. Maybe you can uplift us with some of the tweets, maybe not. I don't know, but it's all you now.
Wow. Yeah. What's up, guys? Time for post up with your boy Chris. Yeah. That when I heard that news, it was really heartbreaking. So yeah, prayers to the family. Anyways, first one. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this stupid, ignorant post on social media. And to be honest, as upsetting as it is, I will be, and maybe this is just my pessimistic mind, I was expecting this to happen in a time like this, because especially where it happened in Santa Monica. This post, if we can run one more time, is a lady. I guess we know who she is. I don't have the name on me right now, but this lady who was proposing as her boyfriend, man, whoever that is taking a picture. She was posing to pretend and act as if she was a part of the protest going on right now, so she can get her little bit of clout for her social media. LeBron James was one of the people who saw Ava DuVernay was one of the people, the person I saw actually initially post this. LeBron James retweeted her post with exactly how I felt. I didn't put it, but it's literally just a bunch of emojis. It was the steam emoji and the face palm, because literally when I saw this, I was just like, well, and there it is. And then following this, there was actually other videos that are coming out with similar situations. We saw another chick that took a picture in front of broken glass in front of another establishment to act as if she was in the protest. And like I said, these are all happening, as you can see, during the day when there's no protests going on and stuff, and there's nothing. They're cleaning up. You see people walking up with brooms. These are people that are trying to clean up from what was going on, and she's out here trying to get out. I don't know. This was something that really irritated me. I just don't want to stay too long on this. Devin, I want to go to you first. Seeing something like this, is this something? Because like I said, it was something I sort of expected, but to you, were you expecting to see? Because we were talking about opportunists with anything that's been going on. We see that people that are genuinely want to be a part of this movement, want to be a part of the protest, but then we have the other people that are out there, you know, stealing shoes and going to Louis Vuitton and stuff like that. So seeing something like this, are you surprised to see something like this, or are you like me where it's like you saw this was going to be coming at some point?
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. I wish I could say that I was surprised, because then that would show that, like, I believe in humanity a little bit more than I actually do. But I knew people were going to use these protests as an opportunity to, you know, get clout and to get, like, the praise and the accolades on social media. And it just completely detracts from the actual intention behind the movement and the intention behind the protests. And I think it's shameful. It's embarrassing. And these kinds of people definitely need to be called out. Like, I can't stand for it, and I hate that I expected it, but I think everyone expected it, which is really sad.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to stay on this for too long, but there it is. There she is. And like I said, there's other ones coming up, and I expect to see more as the time goes on with other people who are going to be taking the opportunity to, you know, up their clout. And hopefully nobody is going to be on their side, and this will backfire as it should when people are trying to use these opportunities the way that this lady and others have been. Moving on to the next one. This one. I like this one. This is coming from Alex Caruso. Now, I've been on record where I've been aboard the Caruso train before he popped off. Okay, I have video proof on my channel where I talked about Caruso back when it was him and Lonzo Ball before LeBron James suited up in a Laker jersey. So I'm glad that he is now getting the notoriety. I feel like it's a bit overblown, but it's still nice to see him. But basketball aside, what he initially was talking about and the comeback on top of what he was talking about, these just add on to the lore of the greatness that is Alex Caruso. So first and foremost, there was a post from the Associated Press that we're talking about some stupid PR crap that Donald Trump was trying to, you know, go and be. I don't care. Blah 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 blah. Point of the matter was Alex Caruso felt how I did, saw it, and he responded to it. He retweeted and he captioned with, "No amount of stage PR photos can hide who this man is. Ego, zero empathy, and inability to lead. The perfect storm." Facts. And that's the situation that obviously especially after what happened, the words that he spewed on live television yesterday. Especially after that, of course, this is a situation that he's going to have to do following the fact, because you know that PR is not looking great. So you have to do things like that to get people who are not really invested or really know what he said, the magnitude of what he actually said. So people are seeing this like, oh, okay, Trump cares. If those people still exist, I don't understand how. Anyways, that being said, I'm pretty sure Laura Ingraham got some notes from Kevin Durant in her interview that she had with KD and LeBron James, because I'm pretty sure that this person that responded to Alex Caruso is her ghost account, because the response to Alex Caruso was just dribble. I said, okay, sounds familiar, but that doesn't matter, because Alex Caruso had the best comeback when he came back and said to her, or him, excuse me, the account wasn't him, but was it though? Laura, I see you. The response was, "Been playing mostly off ball this season. I'm good, Waylon." Ha! It was a basketball. I loved it. The responses, people were going in talking about, "Here's your crown." I was going to post a photo where it was like, I don't know if you guys read what are those things? I don't remember the book, but it was like a book series where it would go Animorphs. That's what it was, where it would be a person and they would slowly turn into an animal. There was one of those. It was Caruso and he was slowly turning into Michael Jordan. I was like, no, not now. I'll save it for another time. But anyway, people were loving that. Beautiful comeback from Alex Caruso. Love that. And yeah, his initial statement, I could not believe what we had to listen to yesterday. His initial statement, I feel like I'm glad that he's putting that out there. Again, when people who have those check marks, people that have the platforms are, you know, making sure that they're spreading awareness to those who might not be paying attention. I'm always a fan of that. So shout out to Caruso, and also A+ on the comeback. Next up, we got Floyd Mayweather, who is out here making a great gesture. He has publicly announced that his camp has announced that he will actually be paying for George Floyd's funeral. Really wanted to mention that. Nothing more to that. Nothing else to really mention besides the fact that he's going to be taking care of the bill and taking care of all that for the family. So that's something that they don't have to worry about. And I thought that was a great gesture. So shout out to Floyd Mayweather for doing that for the family. And now you guys saw the thumbnail, and let's talk about what's on the thumbnail. Let's talk about what's on the thumbnail. Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champion, everybody's favorite. The Steph Curry of the NFL turning into, Patrick Mahomes. Well, he posted in my opinion, I mean, people were taking it, they liked it, but when I read it, in my opinion, it was an okay response to everything that's been going on in the world. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it was a very long message, but it was talking about the situation right now. To me, I felt like it was a little bit more all lives matter than Black Lives Matter, but that's just my opinion on it. But the point of the matter was he was there talking about what was happening right now, and people, they're calling him out and they're trying to remind him of some tweets that he he did post back in 2011 and 2013. Now, I'm specifically going to point at the ones from 2013 because those have a close connection to what is going on right now. And he had some opinions back then. Again, this was a 17-year-old Patrick Mahomes. But I'm curious to hear your guys' take on whether this is something that we should still be holding against him because he was 17, or is this one of those things that you think that he grew out of? But let me read the tweets first. The first tweet, both of them were in response to Spencer Shaw. First one said, it was in response to the Trayvon case with George Zimmerman, blah, blah, blah. But his response was, there was no reason for Zimmerman to follow him, and Trayvon just defended himself, and Zimmerman had a gun, so he shot him. Okay. The next tweet was again in response to Spencer Shaw, where he said, no one knows what actually happens, which is why he is not guilty, but a crime could have occurred. Again, So, again, these were coming from a 17-year-old Patrick Mahomes. Again, he put out his statement yesterday talking about that, he feels for everybody. He feels like, there needs to be unity and rah. But I want to start with you, Jackie, seeing these, like I said, from a 17-year-old Patrick Mahomes. Is this another situation of we should be holding this against him in this whole cancel culture of the internet, or are you going to give this a pass as him growing up, being that he was a teenager at the time? How are you taking these tweets and responses to a very serious matter in the Trayvon Martin case?
I don't give passes like that, especially even on age, because at that age you should definitely understand. But for the fact that you don't look Black, it could have been you. You know what I mean? So I definitely am not going to give him a pass on that. I definitely understand people relating back to this moment, because his tweet definitely was one of those that was going to skirt around the issue, not really address the issue. We have a race problem. We have a discrimination problem. We have a racism problem in this country. We are being led by a racist tyrant. And so tweeting out anything that kind of says, oh, wait, it's not that, it's just very say less, because nobody really expected Patrick Mahomes to say anything at this point, Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, I feel like I don't want to come down on him too hard, but I do just have to wonder if some of the things that he says, and I always wonder this about people, it's reflective of the environment he lives in. He's probably hearing these types of things. He's probably hearing these types of things from his family who is not Black. So I'm not surprised by it at all, but I'm not going to give him a pass either. So it just kind of is what it is on that one.
Brett, I want to ask you the same question. Is it one of those things where it's a life lesson? Is he learning from how he was feeling at 17, or like Jackie said, 17, that's an age that where you should start understanding the moment, understanding the severity of the moment. So are you not giving him a pass either?
I'm not giving a pass, but I also am not for the canceled culture. I think it's not good to say that people can't grow and change and educate themselves and learn stuff. I think if you asked me a lot of stuff when I was 17, even the choice of guys I dated, and you look at me now, it's totally different, so I can't condone the cancel culture. I have a sister who is 17 right now. She was not raised at all by our Black father. She was raised by her white mother only. And so She is very woke and she understands stuff very well. So I can't say that at 17 your brain isn't developed enough to understand situations, because I'm looking at a 17-year-old and what she's been doing the last couple weeks, and she understands situations very well. So at 17, I can't say that you don't understand this or you're not old enough to comprehend what's going on. I also don't want this situation to be like you're just posting because everybody else is posting something and you feel like you are obligated to post something. I think I read what he posted and mostly was like, I grew up where all my teammates, we were all just one and blah, blah. And again, it's the Nick Saban post yet again, he didn't speak at all of police brutality, and he didn't speak of really the injustices we're going through. It's literally just the let's all come together and love each other stuff. And that's not you're not posting anything at that point. We all agree we should all love each other and whatever, but that's not what's happening. We need to acknowledge the situation, because like they always say, the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. So the fact that you just want to talk about what we should be doing and not what's currently going on is an issue in and of itself. And the post was very blah, could have done without it. That was a say less moment. You're correct on that. But I don't want to say that he's like just canceled, in my opinion, from 2013 things. I also agree that what he posted now still isn't much better than what he posted in 2013. So I really hope that he takes this time now to actually educate himself. If he feels like he wasn't raised in a community that he had to deal with race, and obviously him being a top athlete has probably benefited him in his life, in the sense that he probably didn't have to deal with like racial injustices, because you're the star athlete, so everybody's just going to love you, even if behind closed doors they're not going to protect you if something did happen to you. So he probably was oblivious to a lot of stuff going on when he was growing up. So I would like to challenge him to maybe take this time and speak to people and really watch videos and understand what's actually happening, because at this point, ignorance is no longer accepted. You cannot be ignorant in this moment. You can't just believe in all the flowers and rah-rah and candy and stuff. That's not okay anymore. And we need to be mad in this moment. And for you to just try to encourage love and peace, that's all fine. That's what we are fighting for, but you have to fight.
No one disagrees, right?
Right.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I agree with both of you guys on that. Moving on to this next one. I'm on record. I'm not crazy about a lot of Nick Wright's sports takes, but I will say when I saw this message that he put on air at Fox Sports, it was a nice little breath of fresh air for those who didn't get to see it. He dropped it was around like a 5-minute message, and he was directing it towards white folks about what the events that are going on right now, and people that are continuing to be ignorant to the situation and don't understand why this is so important to Black people that are going through this movement, that are dealing with this movement, protesting and speaking out towards the situation. I felt like I in my opinion, I thought it was well done. I thought it was, I was able to put sports crap aside. I genuinely loved what he had to say in this moment, coming from where he comes from. Obviously I can't play the entire video. It's a long video, but I did take out 2 parts. This first part though, that I do want to play is something that has really been on my mind since I want to say probably around this weekend when the protests were really starting to heat up, was the reaction to these protests that have to do with Black people and human beings losing their lives the way they're losing lives, and how these protests are being responded to by our president, by the police, by everyone upstairs, compared to a certain protest that we were talking about not too long ago, having to do with a virus that is uncontrollable, but because some people weren't able to, get their mani-pedis or weren't able to get their swole on or stuff like that, they were a little upset, and they were out there protesting peacefully in their eyes too, but it wasn't handled the same way. And I feel like Nick Wright did a good job talking about that. So if I could play the first clip here.
At the forefront of this movement, because we know they can, because we saw just a month ago when, in large part, white people in certain states were upset because damn tanning salons and barbershops weren't open, and when they stormed state capitals armed to the teeth, we saw the police in that instance show immense restraint, great restraint, and the restraint that every American deserves to be shown by the police under the protections of the Constitution. So we know it's possible, and we must demand the same for all Americans.
The reason why, to me, that is so powerful is you heard from Britt herself, you heard from Jackie, who have been in these protests, where the protests were peaceful. The protests were initially started to be peaceful, and they turned into riots because of the action. The riots were reactions to what the police were doing to the people that were peacefully protesting. Now, mind you, yes, we talk about the opportunities. I get that. But the thing is, these riots that everybody is getting so riled up about and so crazy about, these are all reactions from how everyone out there protesting. That's the reactions of the people that are out there protesting. You're gonna, if that's how you're gonna be treated to us, and that's how we're gonna treat the everything that's going on out there. Like we said, F the buildings, F the what's it called? The businesses that, like the Targets and stuff like that. Who cares about your stuff? If you guys are going to be out here when we're out here trying to peacefully get our message across, and you're going to be throwing tear gas at us. And I'm watching more and more videos. Now it's coming into like freaking broad daylight, 11 o'clock in the morning. People are getting hit from cops and stuff like that. These are reactions that are coming because of the decisions that people upstairs, cops, some governments are making. So I feel like this is an important message right here that he dropped in comparison of the two protests, because we were seeing people that were getting really outraged over something that was a virus and was a sickness that we're trying to, they're trying to keep us safe from, but people are upset because they can't go and get their taco from their favorite place. But now we're talking about someone's life and somebody's lives and future lives that we're trying to prevent from being lost. And now all of a sudden people have to be home by 4 o'clock and stuff like that, or else that's the excuse for them to go out there and beat people with sticks. But anyways, I digress. We just talked about Patrick Mahomes. We talked about Odell Beckham Jr. We talked about all of these athletes and people with bigger platforms than us, and we talk about how it's a time now where silence is way louder than any other opinion you could have, and it's time for these guys, especially with the platforms, to speak up. And a lot of them still aren't speaking up. We heard Britt talk about yesterday, colleges and coaches and people that you would expect to hear from are still not saying anything. My damn owner, who I would hope in a situation like that, in like this of the New York Knicks, he's coming out telling people that he is not in a place to talk about something like this. Like, this is the ignorance that's going on from people that have the platform or have the space to have people who aren't really educated with the situation to say something and have us hear them. So I just want to play the end of what Nick Wright said here at the end. I felt like it was a perfect cap to me, a great 5 minutes message that he dropped on Fox Sports. So can we play the end real quick?
If you are in a position of power or influence, or you are in the majority, then you must not do it simply through a few fist emojis and Instagram likes. You must put your money, your power, your influence, your platform where your mouth is. Or else you can set your watch to it. We're going to be right back here sooner than we think, talking about the exact same issues that brought us to this precipice this weekend, Jenna.
And I just want to leave it with that. I think that was well said. Good job, Nick Wright. And to go out on a positive note before I hand it over to Jackie, amongst all the protests and riots going on, specifically out here in LA, nice positive note. None of them, none of these Kobe and Gigi murals have been touched. And there's people posting pictures and stuff all over social media. If we can get just all the pictures shown up, none of them have been touched. People are making sure that they're not touched. And I think that is a nice little glimmer of light in all of this. So I wanted to end with the positive note on that, and that's really cool to see, because a lot of hard work, and it's something that is very important to this city for sure. So it's really cool to see that nobody is messing with those. But on that is me for Post Up.
Thank you so much, Chris. Great post up, and I love that those murals are being untouched. The respect that people have for those murals is really, it's awesome. Now, Jackie, can you take us into WTF or the other title that you wanted to call it, which now I can't remember what that one was?
All right. Today it's going to be the, yeah, this sounds right moments. Because for me, none of this is WTF. This is all what should be common sense, but like my mom says, common sense is not that common. So I don't know, it might be WTF to some of you, but Gregg Popovich is one of my favorite people on the planet. He does not run from anything. And every time he speaks, it is spot on. So I don't really have much to say. I'm just going to get into a couple of quotes that he made when speaking to the nation's Dave Zurin on Sunday. He said, quote, "The thing that strikes me is that we will see the police violence and racism. We've seen it all before, but nothing changes. That's why these protests have been so explosive. But without leadership and an understanding of what the problem is, there will never be change. And white Americans have avoided reckoning with this problem forever because it's been our privilege to be able to avoid it. This also has to change." And then he did not waste any time moving on to the 45. He said, "It's unbelievable. If Trump had a brain, even if it was 90% clinical, he would come out and say something to unify the people. But he doesn't care about bringing people together. Even now, that's how deranged he is. It's all about him. It's all about what benefits him personally. It's never about the greater good. And that's all he's ever been." He also said, it's so clear what needs to be done. We need a president to come out and say simply that Black lives matter. Just say those words, but he won't and he can't. He can't because it's more important to him to mollify the small group of followers who validate his insanity, but it's more important than just Trump. The system has to change. I will do whatever I can do to help because that's what leaders do. I wish I could just cue in some applause emoji for this man because this is just, it's just one of the most, thank you. Yeah. It was just really beautiful because, I was telling the Fumble crew earlier when I went out to the protest yesterday, I ended up crying myself to sleep because it became very apparent very quickly that even though there were, and I'm not going to say all because obviously there were a few, shout out to a group of white people appeared out of nowhere who saw that we were all sweating like we were about to die and handed us all water. Thank you guys so much for that because it was about to get really bad for us. But for the most part, it was literally us trying to prevent them from antagonizing the police because we knew that it was just going to be us that, reamed the brunt of that rage from the police or stopping them from looting. One guy threw a cone at a cop and it just didn't feel like they were there for us. It felt like they were there for show to get some pics, IG posts, whatever. So to wake up and read this. So shout out to Arthi, our producer who sent me this because I'm trying to tell you this was right on time for me because I was like, okay, I can calm down. It's not as bad as I think. So well done. If no one else said thank you, Popovich, I am saying thank you right now. I'm going Popovich and Steve Kerr for president and vice president. That's just me personally. But so let's move on because, Britt talked about going to the season opener of the XFL. I've watched several games and Chris did too. And we all were pretty excited about what we were seeing. And then boom, the Rona hit. And now the XFL had to lay off a bunch of people and they had to file for chapter, I think it's 11 bankruptcy. But apparently all hope is not lost because Mike Mitchell says that media companies, he says, quote, "I know that media companies have made inquiries on the possibility of purchasing the XFL. I do know that both Fox and Disney have inquired. What I do not know is whether or not they are part of the 20 bidders that are now seeking to purchase the XFL. But I do know that Fox and Disney have shown interest in purchasing." So he's not going to tell us who the other companies are that are interested because of non-disclosure agreements. So I would love to hear who they are as well. But Chris, I got to ask this question to you. Number one, we kind of do need the XFL back, right? Wouldn't that be something you'd want to? Yes. So is there a company that you would? Is there a company that you think, just because when I think of the integrity of the league and some of the things that they had implemented that I wouldn't want to see changed, is there a company that you think would be a better fit for the XFL?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I just feel, that's a really good question because to me, I feel like Disney picking it up makes the most sense. But then knowing the XFL and knowing McMahon, does that match fit? So that's a very good question. I don't have an answer as to who I would prefer, but because I know that they have the money and I think that it would be for them, I think it would be something where I could see Disney definitely picking it up. I mean, they already got ESPN. It'd be scary because how much they already have under the umbrella. But I think that that's something that could definitely be in the works because it was working. Like XFL was doing good. There's people that were genuinely upset when when they filed for bankruptcy. So I think it would be a good pickup for Disney, and I feel like they probably are the front runners for it because of the funds that they have. But man, to think of which one I would prefer, I have to get back to you on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's my only thing is like them getting picked up, and then all of a sudden it's just like the summer. That's what another proposal was for it to be like the summer league of the NFL kind of thing, and that's just not. I would want to maintain the integrity of the XFL. So that's my only fear. I definitely want it to come back. I just don't want to lose the XFL as we have it. So that's my only question. But
I agree.
All right, so I know you're fuzzy, so just don't blow this, okay? All right. Don't give me a fuzzy intro. Okay, here we go because it's time. It's time for Brit's takes.
Brit's takes.
Thanks, guys. Really quick, I think to talk about what you were talking about, Jackie, it would be really cool to help with what issues we have in the NFL by having a group of Black owners come and take over the XFL. That would be perfect. I would love that. Maybe Magic and Jay-Z, a couple other people, Diddy, whoever can get together.
Diddy, yes.
Yeah.
And I know
wait, can you and Chris? Me, you, and Chris can put our money together, and we'll
put money together.
I'll put a little $10 in there.
Right. We'll own some helmets.
0.0001
Right.
Yeah. We own the helmets. Yeah. We own the helmets and a few mouth guards.
Love it. But let's get into my take for today. So DeMarcus Cousins actually asked Kings announcer Grant Napear if his view on Black Lives Matter, or what was his view on Black Lives Matter on Twitter. If we have the post, can we get that post up there, Leo? The tweet number 1. So DeMarcus Cousins basically asked what his view was on Black Lives Matter, and he responded by saying, "Hey, how you doing?" All this kind of stuff, and then said, "All lives matter, every single one." We could just skip the tweet now, I guess. But the Sacramento Kings put him on administrative leave on Monday after this tweet was released. He went on to say in an apology and a post in the Sacramento Bee saying that, "I'm not as educated on Black Lives Matter as I thought I was. I had no idea that when I said all lives matter, that it was a counter to what Black Lives Matter is trying to get across." Number one, I don't understand how you don't know that. We've definitely made that very clear. I'll get into the ignorance of that in a second. But apparently the reason why DeMarcus Cousins asked him this question was because he was trying to say what he was trying to make him say what he knew he was going to say in the first place, because Cousins responded back and said, "LOL, as expected." Chris Webber also tweeted to DeMarcus Cousins' tweet and said, "DeMarcus, we know and have known who Grant is. The team knows as well. I've told them many times. They've seen it. They know who he is." Matt Barnes even commented recently. I saw this morning. He commented, or late last night, he commented and saying, challenging the Sacramento Kings to finally fire him. He's actually been with the team as the announcer since 1988. And if you're a Clippers fan like me, or if you even knew anything about the controversies that went on with the Clippers with Donald Sterling, you would remember Grant's name because he actually stood up for Donald Sterling during that time and said that the Clippers' former owner, Donald Sterling, could not be racist because he employed Black people. So I don't understand why at that point he wasn't relieved of his duties, but no, he has continued to be with the Sacramento Kings, and he also hosts a sports talk radio show with Doug Christie, who also is a former player. Most people probably just know him now as Jackie Christie's husband from love basketball or whatever. But he hosts the show with him. And now he has been relieved of his, or not relieved, he's been put on administrative leave as of yesterday. But I just think it's crazy to see that like this guy posts All Lives Matter and then try to then later state that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that that was like a bad thing or a wrong thing to do. Like, I think we all know that he can't be ignorant in this anymore. Like, the definition of ignorance is meaning or is lacking knowledge, information, and awareness of something. And I'm sorry, like, I know you don't lack those things. You're not a stupid person. You've been covering basketball for a long time, which is majority African-American players. People have told you several times when the Donald Sterling stuff came out, people told him stuff. He tried to apologize at that point too. And like, to see him continually get opportunities is kind of crazy. And I think, like, all of these guys that played with the Sacramento Kings have come out and said at this point, like, this man needs to be fired. Like, forget the administrative leave. There's no research or gathering of information, like OBJ said, that needs to be done anymore at this point. This man needs to be relieved of his duties in his position, because it's crazy to think that somebody still believes at this moment. And this is a week that he posted this yesterday. So this is a week after all of this stuff has happened, where everybody's already been on social media posting and saying all this kind of stuff. And for you to just have a moment where you're still saying all lives matter because you're trying to pretend like you didn't see the fact that anybody who posted all lives matter was literally getting reamed, because you were literally making it seem like you're basically taking away from the struggles of like Black people. You know, you're making it seem like, oh, well, no, all lives matter. And by saying that, I'm including Black people. No, this specific situation is about the fact that Black people have been killed and beaten and whatever by police for years and years, and then the police don't have any actions for it, which is why they continue, or consequences for it, which is why they continue to do it. So I don't believe I'm sorry, there was a girl who like kind of accidentally posted about or not posted, but she was doing a live show. She was in the middle of the protest, and she had said colored, like, oh, there's of people and not just like colors or colors of people or something like that. And she came out and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't, whatever. And then it's like a lot of people were going into her comments too, saying, well, you don't make an accident like that anymore. Like, that's not, like, you can't just accidentally say colored people, like, because you would have had to have used that phrase before. Like, she was trying to make the fact that she was just in the middle of the protest and so much energy around that it just accidentally slipped. No, you've said that before. You've said colored people before. And this is the same situation here. He cannot make an excuse for what he did. You posted it. It is still like I just pulled that tweet right before the show. He still left it on his page. Like, it's still there for people to see. So he doesn't really think he did anything wrong by saying it. And my question is going to be to you, Jackie. We'll be quick because I had to kind of rush through this. But I know Devin spoke yesterday about people becoming possibly woke in moments like this. Do you think it's more of that, or the fact that they are being pressured into doing the right thing? Because I feel like in this situation, he was trying to then come back after the fact, like he's just woken up from the fact that, oh, it's not all lives matter, it's Black Lives Matter, or whatever the case is. Do you think he just said that because he's in a moment where he's being pressured to say that?
I definitely think it's a moment where he's being pressured to say that. And I definitely respect Devin saying, you know, that we think people can become enlightened and they can finally wake up. I personally am not that person. I am not optimistic, because I think if you didn't wake up after 400 years, you're going to be asleep for a lot longer. So I am not one of those people who thinks that enlightenment is going to come like that. It's definitely not going to come from a tweet. And this isn't to his defense, but I believe like that girl that said it, and when he says it, he's like, oh, I didn't know it meant whatever. Probably true, because in his circles, they don't talk like that. How they see us, how they talk about us is quite different than how they should see us or talk about us in the public. And I think sometimes you just get comfortable and you say, oh, well, me and my friends talk about this all the time. Me and their friends talk about it. There's enough people around me that feel the same way. I'm sure I'm fine to say this. And then when you get the flashback, then you're like, oh, wait. Y'all don't think like us? I'm sorry, my bad. I don't really think like that. I don't think it's a real apology, though. I think in his heart of heart, he believes every single thing he said.
Do you think this saying that, because granted, we have heard things that are way worse than what he said, where people are completely on the opposite, you know?
Right.
Do you think what he said warrants the Sacramento Kings firing him?
Yeah, I think that's why change has come so slow, because we make allowance for people and their racist ideals. And so we say, oh, you know what? That's just his opinion, so we don't have to fire him. And then that's why things have kind of boiled over the way they have. So right. She can't, right. Yeah. And they haven't, neither of those women said, first of all, Jamil Hill was spot on. Josina didn't say anything to me that even warranted a discussion. So, but again, when you're Black, you have to work twice as hard for half the credit, and you have to have a spotless, you have to say things that don't piss off the masses. And I think it is a privilege to be able to say, hey, I can piss off Black people all day long and keep my job, because there's enough people in the masses who agree with me. And until the masses say no, until the number of people in the masses dwindles with in agreement to this, then this is just going to be a thing. They'll fire him for right now. We'll forget about it. We'll probably have to march about somebody else. He'll end up having a job with somebody else. And then 2 years from now, we'll be talking about the same thing. Unfortunately, I think it's a wash, rinse, repeat situation. I hate to sound pessimistic, but I haven't seen evidence that I'm wrong on this. So.
Well, and especially in this situation, I could see if it was possibly an isolated incident, and then he said, oh, I just didn't understand, which I think at this point, I don't think anybody can be ignorant. This is very well talked about. But because of the Donald Sterling stuff that he said before, like, this is he's been a racist long enough now, you know, and all the players coming out and saying in agreement, like, well, we all knew, we've told the Sacramento Kings a bunch of times, we don't feel comfortable with him. He's been racist, and the Sacramento Kings have kept him on board. So I think he does have to go at this point, especially since the players have come out and said, we've told you guys he was racist a while back, and you guys did nothing about it, that the Kings have no other choice to fire him at this point.
Right. I mean, I would like to say that too. Like, this has got to be a turning point, not just for white people. It's got to be a turning point for us, that we can't just keep asking for stuff, especially when we are the majority in certain situations. We got to start telling people, this is how it's going to go. If it doesn't go this way, this is what's going to happen. We're going to shut it down. And that's just how it needs to be going forward.
Which I think was good, that, and not to bring up my Clippers, but the Clippers, when the Donald Sterling stuff did happen, Chris Paul and all the Clippers said, if he is not removed as the owner, we will not play. And they all decided together as a team, we will not play. And Donald Sterling got removed as the owner. So I think that is a perfect example of the power that the players do have. And maybe the Sacramento Kings players should have done that in that situation too, and said, we know that the announcer guy that's been here since 1988 is racist. We are not playing until you guys get, and that's just an announcer. I mean, I got a bunch of people I know in my phone that could go and announce for that team, you know? So I think that situation, again, like you said, we need to take action and say, we're not going to do this until you fix this problem. And the players are the majority. You don't have a team without the players. So, and in that case, with Donald Sterling, he was the owner, and they were still able to get him out of that position. So I think that you're right on with that. That's going to be it for Brit's Takes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to my take. Thank you, Jen.
We have to say it. Be like the Clippers. I can't believe we have to say that. Be like the Clippers.
Exactly.
All right, you guys, thank you again for another great show of the Fumble Squad Live. We are going to be back again at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe and tap the notification bell so you know the second that we're going live. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Hit the thumbs up button. And again, you guys, use today and the rest of the week to amplify Black voices on social media. Maybe it's somebody that you follow, a content creator, author, public speaker, whoever. Blackout Tuesday, make sure you do it. Do not hashtag Black Lives Matter. And that's all that we've got for you. So we'll see you tomorrow, okay? 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye, everybody.
Peace.